from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to our program. It's the Friday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, and here's the number if you want to call us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And Trump is, I think, scheduled to start speaking at a rally in Nevada. There's not a ton of news. I wish there was. Maybe I'm missing something, but I was just thinking to myself, it feels like late August, and it's literally mid-September. I don't know when the fall is going to start here, and I don't mean the vernal equinox either, or the autumnal equinox. I'm talking about, campaign season. We've had a debate. We've got Kamala on the trail. All sorts of things are happening, but it seems like nothing new is going on. I guess there's some excitement with Kamala Harris, right? Because Kamala Harris sat down for an interview with ABC News, and it was, I guess what one would expect. More platitudes. I guess I am very biased against her style, the way that she answers questions. And I don't know Kamala Harris. I'd love to interview her. I would love to meet her because I would love to get a real sense of who she is. There are certain times, and nobody is one way all the time, right? I have to say that, right? You guys get radio me, but, there's times where I'm not radio me. But for the most part, this is my speed. But there's been times where I've seen her, kind of, cringing and yelling and being angry. Like when she said, "How dare you talk about a Merry Christmas," right? I think we've played that audio in the past. And then there's like the last 3 weeks, it's been, this almost permanent smile. So as if they, if there was like Botox to make you smile, I feel like she has it. And she just smiles and smiles. And then she tells all her friends in the media to keep repeating the word joy and joy and joy. And to really create this contrast where she can paint Trump as this angry conservative. And there's truth to these stereotypes, right? I mean, my brothers are very conservative, as am I. And I'd say I laugh a little bit more than they do. But by and large, I think they're usually complaining about something, right? Unbelievable. Can't believe what's going on in my country. Oh, this country, can't even recognize this country anymore. It's always a feeling of anger and angst. And I get that. I try not to let that get to me because I spent many years that way. I was married, by the way, for 10 years. So I know all about that. And I promised myself I'm not going to be like that. And then went through life changes and my parents went to be with the Lord. And it was like, wow. And I was in a funk. So I try my best to make sure I don't let politics get to me. Like sometimes the callers call and they're very disparaged about, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I'm so nervous. I don't let this stuff get to me at all. John Batchelor is a radio a broadcaster in this same day part, honestly. He's an old mentor of mine, fantastic individual. And, he once told me, I once said, Batchelor, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think, to Trump or Biden? This is back in 2019 or whatever. And he turns to me and says, Mr. Valdez, it really doesn't matter. I said, what do you mean it doesn't matter? He says, well, of course, for the country. Yes, of course. Yes, that matters. I said, well, what do you mean it doesn't matter? He says, if Biden gets elected, we have unlimited content. Our shows are jam-packed for the next 4 years. And he said, if Trump gets elected, we have unlimited content. Our shows are jam-packed for the next 10 years. He said, it's a win-win for us in the media business, and especially conservative media business. And I laughed, and I loved his pragmatism. And he's, really a happy-go-lucky gentleman kind of guy. So I've always kind of espoused that same thing. I'm thinking, look, it is what it is. Things are going to happen that are outside of our control. The only things that we can do is the things that we can do. So with that being said, have your plan in place, right, of who you're going to bring to vote, how you're going to get them to vote, making sure that you're not trying to convince your friend that, studied under Kamala Harris's Marxist dad that Marxism is a bad idea. you're probably not going to win that one. But the person that's like, I don't know. You know, I think my favorite person is the person that's like, I'm not really into politics. The minute I hear that, I go, me neither. Let's talk, right? If they're not into politics, that's one of the keys that they're open to considering different ideas. When they go, I don't know, if they say this, I voted for Democrats in the past. I voted for Republicans in the past. I'm not a registered independent, but I see myself as an independent. Let's have a conversation, right? These are people that have really planted no seeds and grown no roots on any particular position that they know of yet, right? And one or two good conversations with these people is what may actually solidify their positions on things, because they do have positions. They just have never translated them from like their worldview to how they vote. And again, you're not going to win every time, but it doesn't hurt to have a conversation with somebody who's willing to have it. Now, it does hurt to have a conversation with somebody who's like, well, you know, I mean, on my walls in my house, I decorate them with hammers and sickles. And, you know, my favorite book collection is, you know, Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto. Karl Marx is my favorite author. You know, somebody like that, save yourself the grief, you know, save yourself the trip to the bar. just talk to somebody else. Yeah, you're not going to win these people over unless you want a debate. And some people love that. Some people absolutely love a good debate. Anyway, I got sidetracked there. I don't know how I got into that. But we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff tonight. Tonight we got a lot to discuss. The stress levels for college students is going through the roof. We're going to get into that. We've also got some conversation on the electoral college. That's constantly under attack. And the fact that there's always conversation about the popular vote. This is something I find to be problematic because I don't think the popular vote is a thing, right? At least it's not. It's not a thing. Democracy is not necessarily a thing, right? It's a constitutional republic. That's the system that we use. And we use the electoral college every single election we've ever had. It's not like it's a new thing. So that being said, why do we have that conversation? Well, my suspicion is that we have this conversation about the popular vote to cast aspersions on the electoral college, to say, well, it's this, you know, rigged old white man thing, racist, whatever disparaging comment they have. And that's what we do. And we do that because we are, you know, colonialists and colonizers and et cetera, and whatever, you know, talking point of the day. But the reality is people just don't get the electoral college. So I'm going to have some conversation about that a little bit later on. Also wanted to get into what's going on in Ohio and get, you know, a look at some of the headlines that are going on. So I'm going to bring in one of Trump's senior advisors. And this guy's actually, when I met him, he was actually Trump senior spiritual advisor, which is pretty cool. That's like, you know, high ranking. So, you know, you don't want to mess with the spiritual advisor. Anyway, we're going to talk to Dr. Darrell Scott in a little bit. But I wanted to play a clip of audio for you. I guess I'll do it a little bit later because there's a few things that I want to get into here. And it's Friday. I'm in slow motion, so you got to bear with me. My hair has been let down. And you've got a lot of, you know, media folks that are out there, or political folks that are out there in the media, pushing the idea that, no, Kamala hasn't really gone to the center. No, she's not flip-flopping on her positions. She's right where she's always been. And, of course, you and I know that's just fake. It's phony and it's fraud. So we're going to get to that, the headlines and everything else straight ahead. I'm going to give you the number one more time, 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back, amigos. It's Rich Valdez, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you straight till 1 a.m. Eastern time. And I want to bring in our guest. Our guest, somebody I had the pleasure of meeting a few years back and appointed me to the National Diversity Coalition for President Trump. And he's been out there just banging the pots and pans for all things MAGA, a strong ally of the president's. Pastor Darrell Scott, welcome, sir.
Hey, guys. How you doing, man?
Good to hear from you again. So, Pastor, before we get into the news of the day and a few things I want to talk about, let's refresh the audience's memory. Maybe you could tell us all a little bit about how you came up and how you ended up getting into ministry.
Oh, man, come on. That's a long story from a long time ago.
Give us the radio version.
40+ years ago. Well, I was out in the streets. I came up in the streets. And I came up in the streets. I'll give you the short version. I came up in the streets, man, and I was doing a lot and messed around and wound up in a church on a Friday night. And I'll just say this much. I walked in dirty. I walked out clean. I walked in one way. I walked out another way. And, and I always say, here's what I say. And, I've been in the streets, man, since I was a preteen. And I was 23 years old at the time, but I was an old 23. And the thing is, I always like to say, and, when I say I've been in the streets, let me tell you, I started smoking cigarettes when I was like in the 5th grade, started getting high and stuff when I was in like the 6th grade. Did my share of drinking. I did everything that you could do. I mean, really, there's nothing I didn't do. I didn't run. I didn't shoot that needle. That was about the only thing I didn't do. But I snorted a lot of heroin back in the day as well as a lot of other things. But the thing is this, and I always say this. I say it jokingly, but it's true. I said, whatever that preacher said that night is still working today. 42 years later, what he said that night is still working today.
Oh, amen.
And, I walked in, like I said, I walked out clean. I never smoked another cigarette, never had another drop of liquor, never used another drug, and got straight out the streets and went straight. And so, I give God all the glory for that.
That's a great story. Now, if we fast forward a little bit, we bring you to a big meeting that you get invited to in Trump Tower some years later. What's the scene on that? How do you get involved with Donald Trump?
Well, back in 2011, a friend of mine, a mutual friend of his and I, Paula White, I had known her. I knew she had an apartment at Trump Tower because we were trying to do a television station in Canada at one time, a gospel television station in Canada. And Paula was going to be involved in the deal with us. And so I had been to her place at Trump Tower before. I'd known her. I knew her since the 90s anyway. So she's an old friend. I knew her since like 95 and 96. And so she's an old friend of mine. And she invited me to come to Trump Tower to meet with her about something. I didn't, I thought I was going to meet her at her condo or townhouse that she had there. And instead, we wound up going into the tower side. And she said she wanted to talk about something. And so we went upstairs to the doggone conference room that the apprentice was shot in. And while we're in there talking, in walked Donald Trump. I thought he was just going to walk in and, exchange pleasantries and walk out. And what he said was, I asked Paula here to invite some of her friends here that she thinks hear from God, because I'm thinking about running for president in 2012, and I want you guys to pray on me that God gives me the wisdom to make the right decision. And so that's how I met him, actually at an impromptu prayer meeting. And he bowed his head, and we prayed on him. And nobody got out cell phones and went to social media and made a public spectacle of it. It was just a guy asking for prayer, in a just like many of the guys that show up in our church.
Right.
And so afterwards, we sat down, and he actually sat in there, and we sat in there for like 4 hours. And I never forget the very first thing out of my mouth to him was, "Amen." I said, "Amen." why do you think black people will vote for you? Word on the street is you're a racist. That was the very first thing I ever said to Donald Trump. And he looked back at me, he looked me right in my eyes, he said, hey, man, listen, I'm about the least racist person you ever want to meet. He said, I got to work with all walks of people and all walks of life. And after that, that was it. He didn't try to convince me. He didn't start telling me he had a black friend in the third grade or, any of the things that people go to as their defense for against racism, racist allegations. And so he didn't do it. And so we had a good time, man, afterwards. And I didn't see any subtle signs of racism coming out of him or anything. And we just had good conversations that evening, man. I've talked to him about a lot of things because there was a lot going on in America at that time. The police were shooting black people, and I asked him about that. And he said, man, I wonder sometime why these cops are shooting to kill. Why don't they just shoot the disabled, shoot the wound? And then I said, well, what do you think the problems in the black community? You want to run for president, you're going to have to deal with the black community. And he looked at me and he said, I believe unemployment, underemployment, and depressed living conditions are the root cause of a number of the negative circumstances and conditions in the black community. I said, well, what you going to do about it? He said, look, jobs, better jobs, and repair the neighborhoods, fix the neighborhoods up. So, all the questions I asked, he answered good. And so as I'm about to leave, Michael Cohen comes up to me and say, man, the boss really liked you, they're being blunt with him. And I said, hey, man, that's just how I am. I said, look, I ain't come up here to kiss his behind. And he didn't ask me up here to kiss his behind. I said, because if he wanted his butt kissed, he sure didn't need a preacher from Cleveland kissing it. And he's Donald Trump. He know where to go if he want to get his butt kissed. And so we exchanged numbers. He said, then me and Trump, we took a picture together. We shook hands, and he gave me his number. And he said, stay in touch. And so fast forward, I like the guy. And I told myself, if he runs, I'm rolling with him because I don't like Obama anyway. So, I didn't know I wasn't going to vote for Hillary. I didn't like her. And so about a month later, he called me, and he said he wasn't going to run. And I was a little bit disappointed, but he said, let's stay in touch. And so he and I stayed in touch over the years. I'm not saying a lot. I'm maybe 2-3 times a year, call up there, hey, man, what's happening? How you doing? Or if you're in New York, stop by, and different things like that. And Michael Cohen and I got to be very good friends. And fast forward to May 2015, I got a call. Hey, man, what? I'm running. Yeah, you still in? Hell yeah, I'm still in. Let's go. So the rest is history.
Oh, that's fantastic. Folks, we're on with Pastor Darrell Scott, senior advisor to President Trump's 2024 campaign. And obviously, since the very beginning, he's the senior pastor and co-founder of New Spirit Revival Center in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio. And his website, if you want to check it out, is nsrcministries.org. Now, Pastor Scott, we've got about 40 seconds before the music kicks in and we take our pause. But when we come back, I want you to pick up on that story because I think that's where the next chapter is, where you're there. It's 2015, and you're behind the scenes before the escalator speech, and I want to get your take on that as well. And Pastor, what's your email and your Twitter handle?
I think it's at Pastor D. Scott, if I'm not mistaken.
Perfect. All right, give him a follow during the break, and we're coming right back. Plus, your calls and more coming up after the next segment. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Folks, it is me, Rich Valdez, and we're coming back with Pastor Darrell Scott. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation with Pastor Darrell Scott. And Pastor Scott, we left off with you saying you'd left off with Trump. You guys exchanged numbers. He didn't run in 2012. And you said, all right, we'll keep in touch. And then all of a sudden you get a call, 2015. He says, hey, look, I'm running. Are you in? You said, absolutely. Let's take it from there.
I mean, the rest is history, basically. There was a small motley crew back then. I used to say Hillary had a well-oiled machine. we had a motley crew, but there were a lot of people behind the scenes working, and he began picking up heads of steam. I actually opened up the very first Trump rally he ever had. It was in Georgia. And right around, I think, October, November 2015, Herman Cain and I, two black dudes, opened up the first Trump rally.
That's great.
Yeah, and so, the rest is history. He went ahead and he won, and people want to get upset. But, he was number 17 in a field of 17. And he whittled them down at 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, and all the way down to he became not only the nominee, but he won the presidential election. And then people want to act like they were upset because he won. And I always said, what do you want him to do, give it back? I said, y'all want to get mad at me because he won. But, when I first got with him, you guys laughed at us. He was, once again, number 17 in the field of 17. And if Trump had lost and went down the street, I would have went down the street with him. But he won. So what do you want us to do? We ain't giving it back. We're not going to say, oh, no, we didn't really mean to win. Here, take it.
Unbelievable. So, yeah, the rest is history. And I remember you putting me in touch with Bruce Lavelle a while back. And you guys shared a story with me.
Michael Cohen and I started the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, and I brought Bruce in. I brought him into the fold. I met him at that first Trump rally. He was there, and so he and I became friends that day, and I brought him in, brought him up to Trump Tower to meet Trump, and I made him the executive director of the National Diversity Coalition. And we're still friends now.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and we've had him on plenty. And, you know, what's interesting is I remember speaking with both of you guys once and him telling me a story. And then you corroborated that story as well. And I want you to share it if you remember it. It was about being on Trump Force One and a certain meal that you guys had. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us all about it.
I thought that was funny. We were... The story I'm telling is we went to Detroit to a church, Bishop William T. Jackson's church. I went with Trump then. And when we were riding back, it was Keith Schiller was the security back then. It was Keith, Trump, myself, Dave Bossy, and a friend of mine, the guy, my co-host on SmackDown, James Davis. And we're riding back, so we went to Ben Carson's home where he grew up at. And as we're going there, we had like a caravan. I think Omarosa and them were there, but they were in different cars. And there's a street barbecue guy out there. We could smell it in the car. And Trump says, "Man, that barbecue smells good. Does it taste good?" I said, "Oh, heck yeah, you ain't gonna get no better barbecue than they sell off these streets like this." He said, "You think we should stop and get some?" I said, "Man, we got a doggone police escort and a motorcade. We can't stop and get the barbecue." And he said, "Oh, that's all right. That's good because that's no problem. I got food coming to the plane." So I'm like, "Man, I got food coming to the plane, huh? Wonder what we gonna have." You know, it's Trump the billionaire, and I had driven there, but I was gonna take the plane with him back down to New York for some other stuff, and we get to the plane, and I'm wonder what we gonna have. They had the caviar coming in from Alaska, the salmon being flown in fresh from Norway. I don't know, what do billionaires eat? And next thing I know, Trump goes on, and he comes like, "Hey, the food is here." So I'm like, okay. And he comes up carrying this big tray, man. It's like 20 Big Macs, 10 quarter pounders with cheese, 20 orders of fries. And he was just grinning, man. He was looking like the cat that ate the canary. He was grinning from ear to ear. Genuinely excited about the food from McDonald's. I was like, you know what? This guy right here.
Who doesn't love McDonald's, right? Unbelievable. I love that story. I think it's so funny.
And that's why he doesn't like the fact that Kamala lied and said she worked there. If she'd have said she worked anywhere else, he wouldn't have cared.
Unbelievable.
If she'd have said she worked at a Trump property, he wouldn't care. But when she said she worked at McDonald's, now you're going too far.
She's got to be beat. Speaking of Kamala, she was in Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday and dropping bombs over here on Trump, saying that he's not fit to be president. Listen to this.
And one of the points that I mentioned on Tuesday, so the people who served under him at the White House, who saw him every day, right? His national security advisor, his defense secretary, his chief of staff, and his vice president, all have warned, all who worked with him every day in the White House, sat with him in the Oval Office, have warned America. Donald Trump is not fit to be president of the United States and should never again occupy our nation's highest office.
Pastor Scott, when you hear Kamala shouting this and the crowd seemingly being very enthusiastic about it, what's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I think she's full of more crap than a Christmas turkey. That's number one. But number two, now she went down the line naming some people, and I knew a lot of the people she named. She named their chief of staff. Well, I knew Reince Priebus. He was his first chief of staff. I actually have a nickname for him, and I call him Reese Primbus. And the reason I call him Reese Primbus is because at the RNC, he wouldn't let Don King speak. Don King is a friend of mine, the boxing promoter. He's also a friend of Trump's. And Don King was upset. So he had a press conference, and he kept calling him Reese Primbus. So I started calling him Reese Primbus. I call him Reese Primbus to the face. That's his nickname. But anyway, Reince got fired. And I would say maybe a year later, I was going over to the White House, and Reince was on his way over there, too. I said, Reince, what you doing coming over here, man? Didn't you get fired? And he said, you know what? I have a better relationship with him now, not working for him, than I did when I worked for him. And so that shows you something right there. Now, I also knew General Kelly. And to be quite honest, I don't perceive General Kelly as this great military hero, man, because to be quite honest, and this is my take, he was soft. Kelly was soft. Now, I know Mark Meadows, he and I are friends, so those were his three chief of staffs, but
why do you think
soft,
Kelly
man.
was soft?
He was soft. When you meet a man, you shake his hand, you size him up, and you can tell who's hard, and you can tell who's soft. Kelly was soft. John Bolton, I know John Bolton. John Bolton was soft, too. Let me tell you something. Trump was too alpha for those guys. And as a result, Trump is the type of guy, let me tell you something, he'll size you up, too, because he's an apex predator. I'm an apex predator. And an apex predator can size up whether you're going to be prey or not. And so Kelly was soft, and Bolton was soft, and as a result, because Trump was as, what's the word I'm looking for, as manly and as hard and as alpha as he was, they couldn't work for him. Right.
And when there was a disagreement or they were let go, it wasn't like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. It was, I hate you.
These guys were used to getting in rooms and having orderly discussions and this and that. And Trump is a corporate CEO. And so, he deals with people. You have to try to understand this guy. Trump tends to compartmentalize people. And the reason he does so is, and this is my take, the reason he does so is because as a builder, you have to deal with a lot of different people. So now today I've got to deal with the drywall people, but I've got to be a different deal with the plumbers next. Then I've got the electricians. Then I've got the garbage guys. Then I've got this, I've got that. So he tends to compartmentalize people and deal with them in their area of expertise. And if they ain't giving them the answers that he wants, hey, man, they stick his foot up their butt. And some people can't take that.
Yeah. Folks, we're on.
General Kelly let Jared Punkin. General Kelly let Corey Lewandowski punk him. Now, I know this firsthand. So, if you're going to let him punk you, man, then, hey,
he's got to punk you.
Get punked, that's on you. They ain't punked me.
Oh, that's funny. Pastor, hang on a second. Folks, we're coming right back with Pastor Darrell Scott.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Now, while Kamala Harris was sitting there laughing at President Trump while he was saying this, the reality is there were all sorts of things going on. Now, I've been getting beat up about this. People saying, oh, but the lady eating the cat was in Canton, not in Springfield. But this is from the Springfield City Council meeting last week. Listen to this.
That's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here.
So we've got residents that are complaining about pets being eaten, Trump complaining about pets being eaten, ABC News saying that's not happening, and now they're saying, all right, well, if it did happen, Trump was still wrong. Pastor Scott, where do you weigh in on this? You're in Ohio.
Yeah, okay, first let me say this, though. I don't blame Kamala for laughing. That do sound funny. Because you know why? Every time I hear that, I think of all these memes they got of all these scared dogs and cats. Have you seen them?
Mm-hmm. I did. I seen it with the kitty cats.
Trump has got in front of it, and he's even posted stuff like cats for Trump and different things like that. But in all seriousness, though, I do not doubt that these things are happening. Let me tell you something about him. Trump has, and if you think back over the years, you'll know I'm telling the truth. Trump has said a lot of things that people will say, well, he made that up, or he's crazy, or he's nuts, or he invented it. And then you give it a little time, and he's right. I'm talking about he's been right 99% of the time.
Yep.
I remember the time when he was running in 2016, and he talked about how France would be a certain way and how England would be a certain way, how the cities would, and they mocked him and they criticized him for saying that. And then his words were, he's like Nostradamus or something, you know, because he says things and he's privy to intel that the average person isn't. You get what I'm saying? He has intel,
he got friends everywhere.
He has sources all over this country. If he says it's happening, I don't doubt it. I had heard about the geese. And, I don't know. Haitians eat ducks, man. They look, hey, man, it's free ducks over here. You know what I'm saying? And, hey, I was in Jamaica one time, and I was at the gas station, and a doggone cow came walking down the street, a bull. And I heard him got back in my car, and it was just like bull was walking down the street like a doggone dog or cat walking down the street in America. So I don't know, but I know, and I don't think he was saying that to disparage the Haitian race.
Right, the Haitians, right. I think it was disparaging to the situation.
Just speaking of an actual condition, and if it had been any other ethnic group doing the same thing, he would have said the same thing. He would have said the Irish are out there eating the ducks. He would have said the Jewish people are eating the ducks. It's just so they happened to be. He would have said the Mexicans were eating the ducks. He would have said the white boys was eating the ducks. So it is, I believe, a problem, though, and there was a leaked 911 audio where people called in making reports on this kind of stuff. So, it gives us something to talk about, and time will tell if it's to the magnitude that he said.
Right. Yeah, what I thought was interesting was, to me, the big story here that's being buried is you have a former president of the United States that's on stage, and he's making this he's very bothered by this. He said, they're eating the pets, right? He's really upset. And they want to go ahead and say, well, we talked with the city manager, and to shut him down, to make it look like he's the fake, he's the phony, he's the fraud, when in reality, we've played the 911 call, we've heard the eyewitness testimonies, we've seen several miles away in Canton that this lady was actually caught eating a cat and arrested for it. And not everything adds up, but I would make the same mistake, right?
No. Watch this, though. Watch this. First of all, you made the call before the question. Do you get the point I'm making? You already were seeking out, the debate team was already seeking to discredit him in advance. Right. Because the minute he answered, oh, no, we called the city manager. Well, when did you call the city manager? Just now? You
right, I just said
phone?
it.
What is that show that is where you can call somebody and get some help? Deal or no deal? You know, I mean, like, what is this? What do you mean you called the city manager? So you called the city manager before you asked me a question that I didn't know you were going to ask me. And she's sitting over there making them stupid faces that she's making. And so that shows you there was some nonsense. Look, I was with Trump down in Mar-a-Lago about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And we talked about the debate, he and I and some other people. And he said, man, I don't know if I want to do this debate because Kamala and her husband are best friends with these heads of ABC. He said, and I know it's going to be one-sided. It's going to be slanted. He said that almost a month ago. And, I mean, he was telling me that for the first time because I didn't know, you know, but once again, he knew something I didn't know. And it turns out they were and are good friends with them. And the other girl that was the moderator was her sorority sister.
Yeah, well, listen, I think they're all juiced in. You know how that is. Yeah. The Democrats are all very incestuously connected. If you're a Democrat, you're related somehow.
Yeah. And so, you know, but, you know, he said it, I believe him. And I don't think he didn't just make that up. And, you know, I'm tired of them using that word debunked to just nullify truth. They told us Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation, and it was debunked. They said Ashley Biden's diary, oh, no, that's debunked. And then turned around, if it was debunked and it wasn't her diary, why did the people that had it go to jail?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I'm tired of them with that. That's all they say, is that they'll use that to excuse or poo-poo any negative allegation against it. Oh, no, that's been debunked. Oh, no, this has been debunked. Oh, that's been debunked. And then the things that actually are debunked, such as that Charlottesville stuff and these other things about Trump, oh, no, they'll make that like that's gospel truth. But every negative thing about them is debunked.
Pastor, I want to make sure we get a plug-in for your program, Smackdown on Real America's Voice TV. Let everybody know what time you're on and how they could watch it.
Smackdown, once again, on Real America's Voice TV. Real America's Voice is on, I think it's on Dish Network, Roku, Fire Stick, all of that stuff. And we come on Saturday evenings at 8 p.m. if we're not preempted by a Trump rally. But I think his rally this Saturday is from 4 to 8, and we'll be on it. We're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that you and I talked about tonight. I'm going to talk about the dogs and the cats and some other things.
Outstanding. Pastor, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. You're always a favorite here. We really appreciate it. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, sir.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate that. Flattery goes a long way.
God bless you, brother. All right, folks, we're coming back with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go, 833-4-VALDEZ, and let's check in with Todd, Kansas City. Is that Missouri or Kansas?
That is in Missouri, but I'm actually a truck driver going down the road, listen to you every night. Love your show.
Thank you, Todd.
By the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, I understand you have a question about ABC News. Go for it.
Yes. So I've got you on listening to your amazing conversation with the pastor there, and then at the top of the hour, on comes ABC, and they say how this whole cat thing is debunked. And I think to myself, I know why a politician lies, but what is in it for ABC to keep on?
Understood. What's in it for ABC to lie is that they control the narrative, right? They were able to land, not a knockout punch, but a really good blow to Trump by making him look foolish after he made a statement that was like, wow, where'd that come from? Well, by the way, we fact-checked in, you're fake, phony, and fraud. Make him look like a liar, which these things can hurt somebody running for president. So they know exactly what they're doing. And by saying that this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong, puts the power back in their hands, like they're the purveyors of truth.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Friday night. We're live, we're national. It's hour number 2, by the way. And the phone number, if you want to join us, is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to get into a couple of things. Obviously, Trump is doing a rally. He's got a rally today in... where is that? Las Vegas, Nevada. Kamala Harris has been out in Pennsylvania, and she said something at her rally in Pennsylvania. She was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania earlier today, discussing all sorts of things. And at one point, she stopped to tell the reporters that she thinks she has a good chance of winning the state. Listen to this.
I am feeling very good about Pennsylvania because there are a lot of people in Pennsylvania who deserve to be seen and heard. That's why I'm here in Johnstown. And I will be continuing to travel around the state to make sure that I'm listening as much as we are talking. And ultimately, I feel very strongly that we've got to earn every vote. And that means spending time with folks in the communities where they live. And so that's why I'm here. We're going to be spending a lot more time in Pennsylvania.
So she's going all in on Pennsylvania, and I'm wondering if she's going to answer questions like, you know, why did you change your position on fracking? Can we trust you on your position on fracking? My family has a farm in Pennsylvania. I could tell you a lot of people with a lot of guns out there, and can they trust her with this gun buyback, this mandatory gun buyback? What are you buying back, ma'am? You know, I mean, in Jersey, they used to be 15 rounds in a magazine. Now it's 10, right? I think 10 plus 1 in the chamber is the rule. So if you go across and you get into PA, I think you can go up to 30, right? It's like night and day. So do Pennsylvanians have something to worry about? Will Kamala Harris say that your 30-round clip is a weapon of war? Will Tim Walz come and, you know, and try and confiscate it? I don't know. But I would trust Trump a lot more than I would trust Harris or Tiananmen Tim. So that remains to be seen, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I also want to talk about this other thing. You know, you guys know I have 2 daughters in college, all right? One that's a freshman, one that's a senior. And college kids have a lot of stress on their minds. If they're heading back to school, they're back in now for a week or 2 weeks thus far. And, you know, they got to make sure, did I pick the right major? Am I in the right degree plan? All that stuff. How can I afford to live here? You know, I don't want to ask my parents for more money, etc. And they don't want to take out more loans. It's a stressful thing. Mainly the ones that are thinking about it, they're probably thinking about the job market. And if they listen to my show, they're probably going to be really deflated. I'm always talking about how I feel college has already reached a point of diminishing returns. You likely won't make back what you're investing. So make sure you pick the right program and make sure that you're going to make that money. And the Gallup organization put a poll together this spring in May. And interesting findings, right? There's a lot of interesting findings. They let me just see some of the findings here just to share with you. Mental health and stress were amongst the top reasons that college students considered dropping out of school. Among the students who said they considered leaving their program within the last 6 months, 54% of them said it was emotional stress that was causing that. 43% of them cited mental health as the reason why. And again, that's according to a Gallup poll released over the spring. Gallup also noted that 35% of college students surveyed reported that they have been considering dropping out, period, over the last 6 months. And again, this doesn't come as a surprise to me, but I feel like it might be exacerbated. And also looking at some stuff that was in Forbes Advisor, and there's just a lot of stuff saying, hey, this is scary stuff. Look at this one. 78% of students are taking at least some on-campus classes, but 56% of them are taking at least one online course. So even the way we do college is changing. So I want to get to the bottom of this. Somebody who knows a little bit more than I do on this, I hope, right? The president of Tarleton State University, Dr. James Hurley. Welcome, sir.
Good to be with you, Rich. I'm a big fan. I love your intro, liberty-loving Latino. And
oh man, that's nice.
It's awesome, and you're in a great city. And I too have a freshman. I'm a father of four. I have a freshman that's in college, and I have a junior that's just north of you. He's a junior cadet at West Point, and so sometimes we get to fly into your great city and drive north and spend just a few hours once, maybe every year with him. We don't get to see him a lot as a cadet, but really, really proud of him. And
you should be.
I know you're proud of your daughters as well.
Oh yeah, immensely. And kudos to your cadet. Not an easy task, and Godspeed to him in his career. And I want to get into this stuff because obviously as a dad, you know this stuff like I do. And I talk to my kid. I find myself, I've become so compassionate. You know, I used to yell at my kids all the time. I was the tough guy, right? That's what dads do. But now I'm just like, no, it's okay, sweetie. It's okay. Trust me. I'll send you money. What do you need? She's like, I don't need money. I want to get out of here. She graduates in December, but I see the stress. And when I look at these things, I say, man, this is tough. And I spent about 8 years working in higher ed, doing marketing, communications, admissions. And I saw it, but from a different angle. And I didn't see the college student stress the way I see it now as a dad. But what you have this unique position, right, Dr. Hurley, as president of a state university, you're getting a purview that none of us have. Do you feel that stress is increasing for kids?
Yeah, I think Rich, I think you said it well. You know, I think we have to be uber cautious with which, you know, just like you were referring to the election, you know, which poll really tells us the truth, right? And of the reports, how, you know, what is sensationalized to sell. I will tell you this, in the last year, and I think we would all agree that the federal government totally botched the FAFSA rollout. And students, so many of our students across the country, here at Tarleton State, we're at 18,000 students, right at 18,000 students. Again, state-supported institution, and we're one of the fastest-growing comprehensive public universities in the nation. But we're growing. Our population in Texas looks very different, and over 50% of our students are first generation. 25% of our students now are Hispanic. And 40% of our students are Pell recipients, which means they're the most financially financially needy students. And when the stress of whether or not their $7,000 federal Pell grant will come through and enable them to continue to pursue their educational journey and dreams, there was no guarantee, and there's still no guarantee, because the federal government has totally failed these kids and these students.
It's probably because they're so busy paying off student loans.
Well, I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's ridiculous what we've done to these young people, and so I do think the stress level is exacerbated. I think it's increased because of that financial uncertainty. But you think about inflation. It's real. We have more kids now having to help mom and dad make ends meet. So they're working 1, 2, 3 jobs, taking 15 hours at their local university, community college, et cetera. And they're trying to balance all of those things because their families are struggling to make ends meet. And then the mental wellness, you hit the nail on the head. It's real. And a lot of that's post-COVID.
That's scary stuff, man. You know, as you say it, and again, I live it, but I didn't really think about how inflation is impacting college kids who are broke already, right? and
we were all. You were a broke college student. I was a broke college student.
But it's worse.
It is worse today because they feel this incredible sense to help mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, and Rich. Come on, we have to be honest, right? I mean, many of our kids are raising themselves because mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever their caretakers and their tribe, their love circle, they're working so many more hours now because the national economy is crumbling. And so I do think it's real. I do think that the financial pressures are real. And I think the sheer fact that a lot of these students are just a couple years removed from remote high school learning, where it was very different. And that's why you're seeing more students taking the hybrid approach, meaning half of their classes are face-to-face, half of their classes are online, because that's just what they're so accustomed to. And that's a different level of stress.
Yeah. Dr. Hurley, this isn't on our agenda to talk about, but I figured if I have a state university president on the line, I might as well shoot away. Earlier in my comments, and I talk about this often because it's something I observe, but I'm in the Northeast, so I see it here, differently. But I feel like even my kid, she's at Liberty University, that's in Virginia. It's very expensive. It's not even like affordable. It's expensive. My other kid is doing 2 years of community college before she goes to 4-year, which I love. Fantastic. It's affordable. But I feel like there's a lot of, it is truly, in my opinion, we have passed the point of diminishing returns for a lot of degree programs. And save engineering, or like all the STEM areas, nursing, things like that, where there's still a high rate of pay. I don't know that we are setting our kids up for success. Now, I want to be wrong on this, and I'm hoping that you can prove me wrong, but I'm going to take a break right here, and hopefully you could stick around and prove me wrong on the other side of this. Folks, we're going to come right back with Dr. James Hurley, president of Tarleton State University.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation with Dr. James Hurley. He's president of Tarleton State University in Texas. And Dr. Hurley, the question I posited before the break was, it's my opinion that we've reached the point of diminishing returns on college education by and large. I think tuition's gone up at a rate way too fast. That's no longer commensurate with wages. And I felt this way before inflation. Enter inflation, and I feel like this is a losing proposition for a lot of people unless they know exactly what they're doing. Meaning like engineering, nursing, medical school, maybe becoming an attorney, not social work, right? I think somebody who's, getting a BA and whatever and then going for an MSW, good luck. You're probably going to have more debt than you have income to pay it back, and it's going to be a tough life for you unless you take advantage of one of the government programs that may forgive your loan because of public service or whatever. Those are my thoughts on those specifics, but overall, I feel like that's the trend for so many degree programs. What are your thoughts?
Well, we disagree a bit, and I figured you would. I guess you thought I would say that, and we're still going to be friends, and I'm still a big fan of yours.
Yeah, and I want I want to be of your opinion. I really do.
No.
I want to be wrong.
Well, you got some really good points, Rich. Here's first and foremost, as institutions of higher ed, we have we've got to keep the moral and social and financial, and then you can tack on ethical responsibility that we have to ensure that the students that are walking that stage and earning that degree, that they are going to have an opportunity to gainfully employ themselves. And gainful employment means you're going to be able to pay back your loans and and have a standard of living that is well above the poverty line, et cetera. What you said was spot on. We've got to ensure, and as a public institution, you mentioned your daughter is at Liberty. That's a private institution, and the cost for an education at a private school is far more expensive and far different than it would be here at Tarleton State, where we thrive on access, opportunity, and affordability. So keeping our costs low, we have one of the lowest debt rates, not only in the state but in the country for our students. We are also rich. This is a fun fact about Tarleton State. And this isn't a plug just for our university, but
no, that's all right. If you have the plug for a place that's affordable for people to go to school, that's fantastic.
Well, absolutely. But not only can they go to school, But we are number one in Texas, and we're nearly 85% of our students, when they walk that stage, we're the number one public university in Texas for job placement or entrance into a master's or professional degree program after graduation and within 6 months. And we're really, really, really proud of that, because we focus on ensuring that our students have those pathways into programs where they can gainfully employ themselves. So you're exactly right. The one thing that I will remind folks, anyone holding a baccalaureate degree, or what you and I know as kind of the standard bachelor's degree, they will still earn $1.25 million more over their life's work cycle or over their work career versus a high school diploma. That number significantly increases, as you and I know, with a master's, professional, doctoral degree. Where we've got to be better in this country, and I'm a president of an institution that primarily grants bachelor and master's degrees. We do very few associate degrees.
Right.
But the community and technical schools across this country are equally as important. And those people, young people or people alike that are reskilling or maybe finding their second or third career, we have to have those technical trades as well. And I think the key is ensuring that the affordability is in place for those degrees. And that would be your electrical, your plumbing, and all of those types of service jobs, which you can make a really, really good living doing. And so the balance, right? I mean, the balance is what is key. And of those, whether it's a specific skilled degree, meaning plumbing, electrical, or a 4-year bachelor's degree, that person has a 57% higher likelihood that they're going to be able to obtain more jobs. So the job opportunities with those degrees are greater than those that do not hold the degrees. So the degrees are really important. It tells employers that this person can start and finish a certain program, that they have had some training and they possess at least an entry-level skill set that can make their business better. But what you alluded to, Rich, is right on. We've got to be better at making that more affordable and accessible for all students.
Well, amen. I got the right guy, and I think college presidents across the country should probably look at what you're doing. And I get it. There's a big difference between private schools and public schools, and having publicly supported funds, et cetera. But you've got to have those kinds of goals, right? Saying taking that level of pride, where you say, when this kid walks across the stage to get that degree, he's having minimal debt and is headed in the right direction. Whereas I don't think that's the case for a lot of schools, and I mean a lot. And
no, you're
that
right.
to me
You're
is
not
a
wrong.
scary
You're not
situation.
wrong.
It really
you're
is.
not
It
wrong.
impacts us negatively.
No.
Doc, we're going to run out of time, and I want to make sure you have time to plug everything you've got. So give us the website and the best place to find you.
Absolutely. Well, you can find us at Tarleton State University, tarleton.edu, and find us on social media at Tarleton State or at Tarleton Press. Rich, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I hope to have you back soon. I enjoyed the conversation. Folks, your calls and more coming up in Open Phone America in a little bit. But first, some constitutional questions and conversation on the Electoral College. Don't go anywhere.
America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate. It's too late anyway. The voting's already begun. You got to go out and vote. We got to vote. This is going to be the most important vote in the history of our country.
Well, Trump wasn't kidding. It's going to be the most important vote in the history of our country. And we have to talk about voting. We have to talk about the importance of the Electoral College, because that's really what goes into this vote. And I personally I'm going to go with the word perturbed. I get a little perturbed when I hear so much talk about the the popular vote, because it's not a thing. It doesn't count for anything. It's irrelevant in my opinion. It's not how we elect presidents. So I don't know why there's always so much of emphasis on it. Somebody brought it up in a conversation the other day, and they said, "Look, I know it doesn't count, but you gotta look at the popular." I was like, "Why? If it doesn't count, why do I got to look at it? Just because there's a lot of people in California and a lot of people in New York? No, thanks. I'd rather look at what really matters and hold on to the republic, like Franklin said, if we can keep it." So anyway, I want to get into this with the founder and executive director of Save Our States, SaveOurStates.com. Trent England is our guest. Trent, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rich. I'm really glad to be here.
Likewise, thank you. So let's chat a little bit about this. I know this is something you speak about, and you've just put out an op-ed recently. And the Electoral College, I think, is important. There's some people that want to change it. Let's talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is how we have always elected the president. It's in the Constitution. And, the reason some people don't like it is actually because it works really well to put some checks and balances in presidential elections, right? It's funny, you'll hear people, talk about, failed elections or misfire elections or all this. And it's bogus. The Electoral College, whether it's 2016 or any other election, has worked exactly as it was designed to work, to make sure that the candidate that builds the best coalition, that really is out there reaching out, bringing people together, winning over people state by state, is the one who wins the White House. And some people, I think the whole movement to get rid of it is just partisan sour grapes.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think that's putting it lightly. I think oftentimes it's really, and maybe it's me being too sinister, but I feel like it really is some sort of diabolic move to usurp the foundations of what our country was started on with some other idea where this populism, if you will, could take over. And that's exactly the reason we have the Electoral College, isn't it?
No, that's right. I mean, the founders knew that a lot of so-called democracies, you go all the way back to the Greeks, right? Their democracies was the people in the cities having a vote and telling everybody else what to do, right? I mean, it's all well and good to talk about, these Greek city-states that had democracy, but everybody outside of the cities, they were serfs or slaves, right? The founders did not want us to have that kind of a system, right? They didn't want it to devolve to being, New York and whatever cities, happen to be the biggest. I mean, nowadays you got LA, you got San Francisco, you got Chicago, right? They didn't want a system where the cities have all the power and everybody else winds up just being relegated to basically being serfs, right? And so that's why we have the Electoral College. I mean, it is checks and balances. And, it's shocking. You get all this talk these days on the left about, the Constitution, and they're standing up for the Constitution and the rule of law. And then they want to take apart something that is so fundamental to the whole system of the Constitution and our state.
I agree with that. Trent England is our guest, founder and executive director of Save Our States. And Trent, I feel like there's these constant attacks because obviously they want to, what we just talked about, they want to change things and make it easier for them to amass power and hold on to power, and I get that. They believe in the tyranny of the majority. But do you think that there is success around the corner should one party versus another party or one candidate versus another candidate win?
Well, I think we should be very concerned that, the left is beating this whole drum of, democracy, this, which is a subtle attack on the Constitution, right? As you say, it's this sort of populist idea that democracy basically just means that the left wins. If you look at the way they really talk about it, that's, when they say our democracy, what they mean is a system where they win and we lose. Right. And they're trying to tip the playing field in that direction, trying to get rid of the Electoral College as part of that. They've got this whole interstate compact scheme where 17 states have pledged that if they can get to the point where they have enough states and they can control the outcome, they'll all force the Electoral College to rubber stamp the popular vote. So they're really trying to move that direction. And, and if they did that, I mean, you said, you worry that there's kind of a sinister design behind it. I think that's that's right. At least when you get to some of the folks who are really, really pulling the strings here, if they did away with the Electoral College, right, you would see states like California lower their voting age, right? You would see states like, Massachusetts, New York having voting centers in prisons, right? Because anything that they can do on the left to drive up their vote totals would have the effect of giving those states even more power, looking the other way while foreign citizens are voting in elections. And there are so many things that, at least right now, if the proverbial cemetery in Chicago is voting, at least they only affect Illinois' electoral votes, right? Any of those things that could happen in blue states, if we didn't have the Electoral College, they'd affect the whole election. So, I do think there's a design behind this attack on the Electoral College.
Trent England, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Save Our States.
Yeah, so we really do two things. One is we work against that national popular vote plan that the left has. So we're out there working in state legislatures, trying to make sure that we've got a strong firewall of red states and purple states that say, no way, we're not going to go down this road. We're not going to try to dismantle the Constitution through state legislation. And then we educate people about the Electoral College, because a lot of Americans have just never been taught about this. So we produced a documentary a few years ago. It's called Safeguard, an Electoral College Story. It's a full hour and a half long documentary that just tells the story of why we have the Electoral College, why it's so important. And then we do things like this, talk to good folks like you, Rich, and just help people understand why this matters so much, and that there really is a fight on this going on.
Well, keep up the great work, and I'd love to have you back to talk a little bit more about what's going on. Let everybody know how they can watch your film.
Yeah, the film is Safeguard, an Electoral College Story. Folks can find it on Amazon or the streaming service Tubi. They can also just go to safeguard.film, and people can just watch it for free at safeguard.film.
Wow, look at that. Free movies. I like it already.
There we go.
Trent England, thank you so much for the information, for the conversation. I appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Rich.
You bet. God bless. Folks, we're coming back. We're going to continue our conversation on what's going on in Ohio. We're going to get an update on that from a legal perspective. Then, of course, a little bit of an update on women in the Democrat Party that are jumping ship. And, of course, Open Phone America. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who, again, will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, and again, just a quick update. The Commissioner of Police, NYPD, Edward Caban, has resigned after the FBI raided his home. He said he's resigning for the good of the city. We'll talk about that a little bit more, perhaps, in the next hour. And I want to talk about Ohio, right? This Ohio stuff is pretty interesting stuff. And the reason I'm doubling down is because I put a video out that said, Trump didn't make this stuff up. This stuff was really going down. And people were like, oh, but you don't understand. The lady that was eating the cat, she wasn't really even in Springfield. And the lady that was eating the cat, she's not even a migrant. And I'm thinking, excuse me. There was a woman eating a cat. Trump said there was people eating cats. The fact that there was a human eating a cat, that doesn't matter. It's that he got it wrong geographically. That is the big deal. And her status. I'm thinking we're all missing we're burying the lead here, right? We're missing it. Missing the message for sure. But all that being said, we got a quick report because now the Attorney General from the state of Ohio is corroborating this stuff. And we got a quick report from my buddy Steve Gruber, Real America's Voice TV. Listen to this.
The Attorney General of the state of Ohio. This came out today. Dave Yost is the Attorney General for the state of Ohio, and he accused the media of ignoring evidence surrounding those claims in Springfield that they're having their pets abducted and eaten. The Attorney General of Ohio says it's real.
Yeah, well, I also think that the media should be accused of not doing their job, right? This is what they're supposed to do, and they're not doing it. So when you have David Muir saying that Oh, yeah, well, we called the city manager. I don't really care who you called. I got a video of a lady with blood on her face and cat hair, and the cop's taking a picture of her mouth because she ate a cat, and she was, 70 miles, 100 miles, whatever it is. She's in Ohio. The people are calling into the non-emergency police line saying that there are people taking geese. There are people saying that they seen a van coming around and they were collecting cats. Then earlier today, now this is trending all over social media, a woman from Chile posted a video that she recorded of a man that spoke French, a black man that spoke French, that she called a Haitian, that came to her in Chile, South America, and asked her if he could have the kitten that was on her porch. Or he said, can I have one of those? And she said, no. She said, why? And he said, oh, I want to eat it. And she said, we don't eat cats. And he said, oh, in my country, we eat cats. And she said, oh, we don't eat cats here. And she said, I'm just letting you know as a matter of respect. That's what she told him. And she videotaped the whole thing because she was nervous. And he was like, okay. And he left. And I guess he was polite. But the point is, if that is a custom in some countries, that's fine. In Ecuador, they eat guinea pig. They call it cuy. And it's a delicacy to them. This is a big deal to them. Most of us cringe at that stuff. In Puerto Rico, people, not everybody. Now, this is where I think people want to yell at me or Trump or anybody else. I'm just making generalizations here. But it's not unheard of for the people, the jibaros and el campo, that are out there in the country. I've heard of it. I don't know anybody. Maybe my dad might have as a kid, but I don't know anybody in my family that's ever eaten an iguana out of a tree and cooked it up. And they call it pollo de palo, right? Chicken from the tree. But it's not chicken. It's an iguana. So I understand there are different customs for different people that have different access to food. Look, Louisiana. I used to watch that show Duck Dynasty all the time. Those guys would hunt squirrel. The one Uncle Si, he would, if there was roadkill, he'd scoop it up. He's not Haitian. He's not Puerto Rican. He's not anything. He's an American guy from Louisiana Bayou. And that's the custom for them. That probably isn't the custom in Ohio. So I understand the cultural differences. But when Trump makes a statement, or anybody, if she would have made the statement, and ABC News wants to quickly debunk it, and then when they find out, oh, but there is this woman that ate a cat. Oh, but that woman's very far away. And she's not this and she's not that. The point is that there's people eating cats. The point is that there are migrants there that are stealing geese and eating geese, right? I don't think you're allowed to do that unless it's hunting season. So anyway, I want to get to the bottom line here with our guest, because this is, I don't know why it's bothering me as much as it is, but it is. People are just out of control on this topic. Leighton Grey is an attorney. He's the host of the Grey Matter podcast. He's our guest, and I want to bring him in. Leighton Grey, what's going on in Ohio?
Well, I think it's symptomatic of something that's happening throughout the West, and people are starting to notice. I think that people in places like the United States and Canada and Europe understand now that replacement theory is real, and that the destiny of migrants is to replace us. And as this ongoing invasion continues, native-born, quote-unquote, white North Americans and Europeans are noticing that their communities are changing in important ways, in ways that they do not like. There's two basic globalist ideas behind this, both of which are lies. One is the idea behind multiculturalism, that all cultures are equal. Clearly, this is untrue. And the second one is that diversity is strength. Of course, that's not very true either. In fact, we're finding out, especially if you look at what's happening in Ohio, and even worse, what's happening over in Britain, that actually diversity causes conflict, it causes strife, it causes unrest, even it incites violence. So the question is, what do we do? For years, many people have had this sort of haunted feeling that this pervasive sense of dispossession. You're walking down the streets of a place like Ohio, and you don't recognize it as the same place that you grew up in, or that your parents raised you in, or that your grandparents founded. And so this is by design, and I think that it's part of a plan to destabilize societies, to destabilize communities like Springfield, Ohio, which I believe has a population of about 60,000 people, but 20,000 of those have arrived in the last 5 to 10 years and are Haitians. And it's not just Haitians. In Canada, for example, immigrants from India who are defecating in the streets. I saw a video today of some people who went into a stream and were fishing with no license or anything like that. I saw another video of some recent migrants who just walked into a cornfield and started eating a farmer's crop. So all of this is causing a lot of instability and unrest, and is destabilizing our communities. And I expect, in fact, I can guarantee that it's by design, because I read about it in a book that was published 66 years ago called The Naked Communist. And this is all part of a 45-point plan to destabilize the West, to destabilize, trust-based societies like the United States, Canada, and Great Britain.
This is a very. I'm glad you put it the way you did, because that's really the case, right? There are so many nuances here that I think are being the left immediately grabs onto xenophobia, bigotry. And some people may be responding in a knee-jerk way that way. But I think the way you've put it out is really the instance of that there's a lack of assimilation. There are real cultural differences. And these differences, I think we have to kind of come to terms on them, like the ones you just mentioned. If people are coming from Southern Asia, India, wherever, and they think that, back home, we poop in the street. Here, we don't. So somebody's got to let them know we don't do this. And if a candidate for president were to say that, imagine Trump would have said that instead of they're eating dogs. If he would have said something like that, I could just imagine the fact checking. It would be crazy. Leighton Grey, do you think you could stick around for another couple minutes?
I'd be pleased to.
All right. Folks, we're coming right back with Leighton Grey. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. I want to wrap up with Leighton Grey, but not before we could learn about the Grey Matter podcast. Leighton Grey, tell us about the podcast and where people can listen to it.
Well, we're into over 250 episodes now, and we've had a number of really great guests. We just interviewed Dr. Robert Malone about his new book, and the best place to find it is probably on X at Grey Matter Convo, but the podcast can be found any place where you watch or listen to podcasts, Apple and Spotify, Podbean, and others.
Outstanding. And Leighton Grey, is there a website for the work that you're doing?
Yeah, there's a website. It's called Return to Reason /Grey Matter, where our show is broadcast in Canada on the Miracle Channel, but it's available online as well, so you can find more information. And also, our Substack is available. That's if you search my name or the Grey Matter podcast, you'll find the Substack, and there's a lot of really great content on there as well.
Folks, that's Leighton Grey, Leighton, Grey, Grey. Leighton Grey, I appreciate it. Great conversation. Hope to have you back soon enough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You bet. God bless. All right, folks, the music means we're getting ready for open phones across America. Get your calls in now. I can't wait to speak with you before we take off for the weekend. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. We're going to open up the phone lines pretty quickly. I got some audio I want to get to, but it's Friday, and I love hearing from you guys. So don't go anywhere. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez, coming right back.
From the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program. It's hour number 3. We're live. We're national in New York. It's midnight now, and everywhere else, it's an hour or 2 or 3 earlier. And the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Looking forward to chatting with everybody. I'm glad I don't think there's any available lines right now, which is always fun for me. I love talking with the listeners and hearing what's going on in all these different parts of the country. Just to give you, we got here Elwood City, Pennsylvania, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Daytona Beach, Florida, Chicago, Illinois, Tampa, Florida, Canton, Ohio, Cumberland, Maryland. Let's see, what else do we got here? Dothan, Alabama, Boise, Idaho. Man, always a pleasure. Anyway, we're going to get to your calls. I just want to set the stage a little bit here. I put a video on my Instagram, and as I've been talking about on this program the last few nights since the debate, so the debate was the debate on Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, right? So since Wednesday, we've been talking about this, about Trump and the dogs and the Ohio stuff. And the reason I'm harping on it is because I feel like people are very easily swayed by whatever they're told in media. Now, this is a very difficult concept for some people. And I know the first thing, as soon as I make a statement on media, people right away go, what's wrong with this guy? Doesn't he realize he's part of the media? Hello? What's in that head of yours? I understand. I'm in the media business. I get it. And I will make the distinction here. I talk about my opinions on things. I didn't study journalism. I don't pretend to study journalism. I don't want to be a journalist. I'm not here to report news. I talk about the news. I comment on the news. Right? That's very different. Giving news, opinion, analysis is very different than going out with a notepad and shoe leather and making sources and finding out a story. Right? Being inquisitive. It's not what I do. And people that dedicate themselves to that should do it in pursuit of the truth, not in pursuit of shaping an agenda. I have an agenda. They're supposed to not have an agenda, but they do. So it blurs the line for people, right? So, we've reached a point in our society where websites that you may never have heard of, like, I don't know, the National Pulse, the National File, you may not have heard of these websites. They're not very old, like the Washington Post or the New York Times. But guess what? I would venture to say that whatever you find in thefederalist.com is going to be a lot more reliable than what you get in NewYorkTimes.com. And that's just a matter of my experience. It's an anecdotal assessment that I've made over many years. So the point is, when people say, Trump comes out and says, they're eating dogs, and then right away, Kamala laughs in his face. Now, and it didn't seem like a contrived laugh. It was more of a laugh about the way, like, this guy's an idiot. This man's insane. And again, it was funny, right? Darrell Scott, senior advisor to the president, he said he found it funny. I find it funny, too. They're eating dogs, cats, and other pets. It was funny. Trump is funny to me. So, okay, I get it. But then ABC News immediately jumps in with a quote-unquote fact check by calling the city manager. I don't know why they didn't call the police department or the Department of Health, but they called the city manager. City manager says, I don't know anything about it. Can't confirm that. Oh, guess it didn't happen. And they immediately on national television in a presidential debate want to undercut a statement made by Trump as if it was a falsehood, as if what he's saying has no bearing of truth, not even a smidgen. And then we find out that a woman was arrested for eating a cat, that there are multiple reports to the police and multiple police reports of what are being described by the complainants as Haitian migrants eating the waterfowl without a hunting permit and not hunting them, but just grabbing them, severing their heads and walking away with them, or snapping their necks and walking away. And again, this is custom, right? How do you think you catch chickens in Puerto Rico? Right, you go up to it, you grab by the neck, do a little, it's all on the wrist, click, and then that's it. You defeather it in scalding hot water. I understand the customs. My family's from the Caribbean, but I also understand it. Oh, I don't have chickens in my yard. right? In New Jersey or in Brooklyn, New York, right? We left the cockfighting in La Perla, not in New York City. That's the point I'm making. And the larger point that I'm making is that they're sitting here attacking Trump as if he's some sort of Looney Tune, as if he has no idea what's going on. And David Muir, goes ahead and does that. So now the media is in damage control, and they're saying, just like one of our callers who called here and said that the arrest that we're all referencing of this woman that gets caught with the cat hairs and blood on her mouth, and the cop takes a picture of her mouth, that this arrest happened in Ohio, but it happened in Scranton, Ohio, not in Springfield, Ohio. To all of you that think that this is a massive distinction, I say there's no difference. If you tell me somebody in New York is eating cats, and I say, oh, you mean in Brooklyn? And then I find out it's in Albany, which is upstate New York, 5 hours away. I'm not going to now turn to you and be like, oh, you're a fake, phony fraud. You said that was happening. That person didn't even live in Brooklyn, New York. They're from Albany. And guess what? They're also not a recent migrant. I don't care. They're eating cats. So if this man tells me they're eating cats in Ohio, and now I find out they are actually eating cats, well, this is crazy, right? Now, okay, that may be one instance. What about the geese? What about the cats that were being grouped into the van, the other guy, right? We've played a number of pieces of audio here. It's enough for me to say, I think there's a trend here. Now, Trump tells him, that's great for the city manager. I'm talking about what I saw on TV. He didn't make it up. He saw a news report on it, just like I saw a news report on it. That's the point. So this back and forth that we're making with the former president, this fact check on the spot in the middle of a presidential debate, is uncalled for, and it has one purpose. The purpose of making ABC News look like it's the purveyor of truth, which it is not, and Trump is automatically a liar. He's a liar, a racist, and a xenophobe. He said this because he doesn't like black people. He said this because he doesn't like Haitians. He said this because he wants to disparage Haitians in particular. No, he's disparaging Haitian migrants that are in this state, this Ohio, that are bringing customs and problems, right? There's also a problem with automobile accidents. Now, I'm not saying that we should be disparaging immigrants from anywhere because of where they come from. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if you are a migrant from Venezuela and you were released from a Venezuelan prison, and in where you lived, extortion was the way you lived. That was your main mode of survival. So now you're here and you're in Aurora, Colorado, and you're going around with your rifle and your handgun, and you're saying, excuse me, you have to get out of your apartment. We're commandeering this. This is what we do. In my country, this is what we do. I'm sorry, sir, that's not allowed. I'm also sorry, ma'am, we don't eat cats. Whether you're mentally ill or not, we don't do that. And you're not going to get a pass on it. And I'm not going to say that Trump is some sort of crackpot because he called out something that was obviously not right. When groups of men that are being labeled Haitian migrants because they're being bussed there, right? They're not choosing to go to Ohio. They're going there because that's what the government is doing. They end up there, and they're like, hey, I'm here. You guys opened up your border, I'm here. I don't hold anything against these people. I don't. I hold everything against Joe El Baboso Biden and Qué Mala Eres. But my point here is David Muir and the other people and ABC News in general and the media. I will group them in lumps in one big fell swoop here to say absolutely not. This is a distinction without a difference. Somebody did eat a cat. She was arrested. It happened in Ohio. They're eating geese. They're stealing geese. They're trying to herd cats into a van. There's multiple reports. That's enough for me to say I've heard the reports too now. Because when I heard it, I thought it was funny. But I know Trump doesn't say stuff like that just because. And that's the problem. People automatically want to come at it as, okay, well, here he goes lying again because Kamala Harris said he's going to lie. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to frame reality. And that's a problem. So somebody came at me online today, and I don't always write back, but I wrote back to this person only because I felt that I don't care what the media is telling you now, that this woman isn't a recent Haitian migrant and she's not in Springfield. Who cares? Somebody tells you there's a Puerto Rican guy from New York and somebody falsely says I'm in Albany instead of Brooklyn or Manhattan or wherever. Does that change the fact that I'm still me? Right. You get a couple of pieces of the info wrong. Okay, I understand. It's happenstance. You heard a report. You didn't recite it right. You're not a reporter. Understood. Trump was talking about what he saw on television. I think we should really be appalled here that the people are eating cats. We should be appalled here that it's open season on the geese, right? That's what we should be worried about. And more than anything, it's open season on the truth by David Muir and ABC News that want to go ahead. Then the other woman, Lindsay, what's her name? Davis. Yes, I keep forgetting her name. So let me quickly, before I go to your calls, because I know you guys want to weigh in on this and disagree with me and agree with me and all sorts of things like that. But we have a series of short clips about the quote-unquote fact-checking.
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They flipping cars in the middle of the street. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, and I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
And let me be clear, this is not about race. This is about people being given the privilege of coming here from another country and having no respect for our people, our land, or our life's work. People living their life here the way they did in Haiti. Angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's inside and throwing the rest onto the shelves and floors. Pulling off of the highway to publicly clean and gut the roadkill lying there in front of anyone that passes by. Stealing animals from farmers and leaving their severed heads at the side of an old school where children play. Relieving themselves in public. Making some barbaric stew out of the birds that live in our park. This is insanity, and it has to stop. What will become of Springfield? Where will we be in 5 years? The thought terrifies me.
Those are people at a city council meeting in Springfield. You also heard the police body cam footage that we've played before. You also heard a little bit of the debate there as well. These are real things. For anybody to suggest that Trump made this up because he's trying to... What benefit does Trump have of saying that there are Haitian migrants that are causing problems in Ohio? Are they going to vote for him? Somebody going to vote for him now all of a sudden because he said that? No, he's bringing it up as a matter of fact because this is happening as a result of the careless policies of Joe and Kamala. Simple. We don't owe anybody an open border, but we happen to have one. And it's not helping, it's hurting. We've seen this happen in Germany. We've seen it happen in the UK, and we've seen it happen in France. And none of these places are the better because of their open-door immigration policy. They've all suffered. Knife attacks are a brand new thing. You can't just bring in every last person. I thought we would have learned our lesson with the Mariel boat lift and what it did to Miami in the 1980s, hence the movie Scarface. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get off my soapbox, let you guys get on yours. Straight ahead, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, let's go to caller number 4. Debbie calling us from Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Debbie, go right ahead.
Well, Rich, thank you. By the way, there are 2 Debbies calling from Canton. I understand. I'm number 1.
Debbie number 1, tonight. Go right ahead.
Debbie number 1. Hey, listen, I just wanted to say that this whole thing about immigrants in Ohio, and it's nothing new. My gosh, my 2 nephews have built businesses, very successful, built them from the ground up on the backs of immigrants that came over here. And they even said, my God, without them, they didn't know what they would have done. And they are so grateful.
Just to
that
chime
they
in,
had that.
If you look at the railroad system here in the United States, these were largely built by Irish immigrants way back when. So it's nothing new in our country to use immigrant labor. Oftentimes, they're the hardest working people.
And I'm talking in the last 15, 20 years.
Sure.
Okay? So it's nothing new. It's only new.
Well, I think what's new is when I never heard of Irish immigrants eating cats. I never heard of Irish immigrants, causing massive traffic incidents, and things of that nature. And it's not because they're coming from a particular place. It's because of our policies that are not allowing people to assimilate appropriately. Everybody comes from a place where there's different customs. But it doesn't mean we have to reject every custom that exists in the United States. So I don't put the blame on the immigrant, and I don't think the media is really portraying immigrants in a negative light here either. I think, if anything, they constantly get defended. The problem is when you have a immigration policy that says, you know what, we need people to come and work and build this. We need people to work and pick lettuce. We need people to build bridges, and our engineers are not as good as the engineers that come from Asia. So we need them, right? And we need this. And you should be picking and choosing where you need people from to complement your strengths and weaknesses. We shouldn't say, come one, come all. If you guys were locked up in the insane asylum, come on down. If you guys were, like Trump's original speech, right? They're sending their rapists, their murderers, they're this and they're that. They're emptying out the mental hospitals. All of those things. Those things are actually true right now. And we have a country that's being filled with people some that we need and are going to help your family build a business, and some that are going to wreak havoc in our neighborhoods. And we can't turn a blind eye to that. So it's not a blanket statement, but it's an important one nonetheless. Debbie in Canton, thanks for the call. WNIR. Coming right back. I'm Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you so much for having me back on, Rich. I always enjoy talking to you.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, we continue with your calls. Let me see. Where do I want to go here? Let's go to Sheridan, Wyoming, KROE, and check in with, is that Juthan?
Yes.
What's on your mind tonight?
Well, like I said, I'm enjoying your program tonight and hearing all the truths that's going on in our nation right now. And I want to thank all the veterans who have gone out there and given their lives for you and I, and the ones that are still serving. Hopefully they'll all be safe.
Amen.
I just appreciate your program, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to call in and talk to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love to hear what's going on. What are your thoughts on what's happening with the 24 election, and specifically the drama that's unfolding from the debate and all these cats?
Well, I turned it on and I watched the entire 3 hours, and it was almost exactly like Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They were just backbiting each other, and so I wasn't impressed.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jathan. I appreciate it. Big shout out to everybody listening in Sheridan, Wyoming. I'm sure you guys are very lonely without Liz Cheney, but hopefully Harriet Hageman's doing a great job for you. Big shout out to KROE, and we continue. Let's go to Brent, La Crosse, Wisconsin, WIZM. Brent, go right ahead.
How's it going, my liberty-loving Latino brother?
I'm doing great, Brent. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I was listening to what you're talking about, what's happening down there in that Canton, Ohio, and, about the illegal immigrants and stuff. And this is actually an ancient war tactic. It's explained in 2 Kings chapter 17 in the Bible. Hoshea was the last king of Judah, and Samaria was resettled. What they did, they'd take one conquered subject, the Assyrians, and they'd mix them over here and mix them up. That way they destroy the cultures. And then that's actually how the story of the Samaritan, the story of the Good Samaritan, that race was actually created from this war tactic. Instead of being like a scorched earth politic, I'm the king of France, you're the king of England, and I beat you, but you destroyed my country. And also they'd mix them around, and then it's easier to control them and conquer. It creates chaos.
Yeah, well, this is the same thing that Marx did. And again, using way more recent history. This is how they do it, even to the point of I used to read pretty often the different articles on two websites. One is Marxist.org, and the other one is Marxists.org. And there's a lot of articles going back to like the 70s and 80s, even the 60s, and that explain a lot of why they do what they do. For example, we made a lot of jokes in the summer of 2020 and since, and likely prior, but mainly in the summer of 2020 because of Ali Velshi making a stand-up report where he said, well, it's fiery but peaceful, right? Mostly peaceful. And clearly they were burning and torching buildings behind him. The purpose that the communists have of using fire is all psychological. And they literally teach their comrades this in communist school, which they do on Marxist.org. And one of the things I read was that they use this because they feel that the tongues of fire are scary looking and they make people uneasy. So they want to, and again, it's common sense, but this is why they light stuff on fire. It's not just a mere act of protest. It's because it creates this sense of not being safe. Like, we're under siege, we're under attack. Plus, the thick billows of the dark black smoke also creates darkness, doom and gloom. All of this is spelled out in their writing. So they're saying, make sure you burn something. Burn a garbage can, burn a tire, burn something so that you can have this feeling because it adds to the vibe of your quote-unquote protest, your revolution. And this is how they teach their revolutionaries to be. So you're going a little further back, a lot further back into the scripture, 2 Kings chapter 17, where you're talking about, the how they created or how the outcome of where the Samaritans came from. And it all makes sense. This is nothing but history repeating itself. And when something works, people do it again. Brent, that's what they're going to do. But excellent point. I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. Shout out to WIZM. We continue. Let's see. Where do we go here? Let's go to Pat in Sedona, Arizona, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Pat, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. Thank you again. I just got back. I was down in Peru for the last 10 days.
Oh, nice. Did you eat ceviche?
Yeah.
So good, right?
Yeah. I found out they like gerbils too. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, everybody has an interesting cuisine.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. Well, they eat squirrel in our country in some states. I'm not going to mention what states they are, but it is a form of maybe a delicacy or just something people like to eat. And we're talking about pets being eaten by the Haiti people. Well, I tell you what, Haiti does not have any pets walking around, just to tell you that right now.
It's funny you say that, Pat. I read something online today, and it was a Haitian guy, and he made a comment, and he said, for those of you who've never been to Haiti, he said, I just want you to know, we don't have pet culture. There's too much poverty to actually have a pet. This was his statement. And that if you see an animal in Haiti, it is there for the purpose of your survival and for you to eat it. So there is no culture of keeping a mascot, a domesticated pet in your home. And I thought it was a good distinction to make for people to understand, at least, from his perspective. Guy lived there for 19 years before he came to the U.S., where I guess, he learned different customs. So there's a lot of that. And I have an audio clip of a woman from Haiti as well making a comment about this stuff. Goes in a totally different direction, actually. You know what? Before we run out of time, I'm gonna play it right after our call. But anyway, I don't want to take too much of your time, Pat. What did you want to say tonight?
Well, what I was really wanting to talk about was their knowledge of the elections. And I got to talk to foreigners. I was in a place called Machu Picchu, and there's worldwide visitors there, people from Germany, England, Canada, Brazil, and all other countries. And a lot of them do not know, but they're all watching this election. That's what I got from every single one. They're watching it closely. I told them, don't listen to the media. See what you think, and don't make judgments on either Pamela or, Kamala or Trump. And a lot of them did believe that it was pretty much a draw on that debate. I didn't get to see the debate, so I really can't say that I know what went on, but I know there was this animal thing that we just talked about. And I know one thing, her sprinting ability to the end is now failing. She just is losing her appeal to people. People are learning about the lies, and it seems like somebody's behind her pulling the strings. Maybe it's Obama, who knows? But
yeah, I have no idea who it is, but I think you're right. She's running out of steam, and it's she still has another 50 some odd days until she gets to the finish line. I don't know how it's going to work out. Pat, thank you for the call, brother. Godspeed to you. I'm glad you had a safe trip. Welcome back. Folks, the rest of your calls and more are coming up straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we continue. Let's go to William, Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Go right ahead.
Hey, good morning, brother. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
I just want to say you're a light of brightness in the dark for us hard-working men.
Got a crack on my dome because it's shiny? I appreciate it, brother. I know you're a good guy. Thank you, William, in Chicago. It means a lot to me. And let's go to Eduardo, Tampa, Florida, streaming on richvaldez.com. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Rich, thank you very much. Well, Germany's getting it right now after those knife attacks. They're putting more security on their borders. We're about to have, I saw this on Daily Mail, a turf war with that Venezuela gang in Aurora. And they are near $1 million homes over there in Aurora. I mean, that's no, subpar suburb over there of Denver, Colorado. So now you're going to get that in the news once that starts, because those people are going to be making phone calls to well-connected people.
You know what else happened, Eduardo, which I found interesting? Los Angeles is, it's like New York City. It's like, But San Francisco is a beautiful place that it has a lot of expensive homes. Nancy Pelosi lives there, and Gavin Newsom, right? All these people. And funny enough, it's become a hellhole. Why? Because they allowed it to become one. And I've never been able to figure out why you would allow your own neighborhood to go down in the dumps. But they did. And I could see the same thing happening in Aurora and many other places. Democrats don't know how to get out of their own way. And ultimately, I think the more need for government, the better off they are. right? If you have a totally and completely dilapidated city, you can say, look, right now we can't have investment. We're going to have to build here. We're going to have to build, public housing. We're going to have to hire another 15,000 cops. Oh, but we don't do cops. All right, we're going to have to hire social workers, whatever it is. Now you got 15,000 more people that are indebted and beholden to you because you just got them a job that they're going to have for 25 or 30 years and get a pension from. Guess what those people are called? Voters, right? Because people who get those jobs, they ultimately always vote for the people that get them the job. And then massive government continues to grow, and it's a sad and ugly cycle. But that seems to be where we are. And I hope that's not the case, but you're probably right. Who knows? Eduardo, thanks for your call, brother. Shout out to everybody in Tampa, Florida, that's listening online. We're going to continue. I want to take it to Zanesville, Ohio. Now, Paul, earlier I was saying, and people keep trying to argue with me, and I'm not taking the bait. Look, I say the same thing. I don't know if you've been to New York. I don't know if you know where Brooklyn, New York is versus Albany, New York. But if somebody tells you a story and you see it on the news and they're like, somewhere in New York, I don't know where Zanesville, Ohio is. I don't know Scranton from Zanesville from this place that's in the news, Springfield. I do know Ohio's in the middle of the country, and they have a problem. So do you know the difference in geography between Brooklyn or Queens and, say, Albany or Buffalo?
No, I don't.
Yeah, most people don't, is my point. So people are trying to beat up Trump for saying the cat lady was 3 hours away, 170 miles. He doesn't care. What does he know? He hears that they're eating cats in whatever and that they're stealing geese, and there's a lot of animal and pet problems going on, and it needs to be looked at. And that's he brought attention to that. And I don't see any problem with it. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Hey, look,
sorry.
From what I hear, in New York City, there's plenty of rats. So if you want to send a few immigrants to eat up the rats, have you some rat souffle, whatever you want, bring them on over. They can take care of our problem here in New York City, right? I mean, it's just it's off the cuff that people don't think that people don't eat rodents and things, because I've watched a lot of documentaries on war and so forth, and I don't know if it was the Cambodians or whoever it was, they would eat rats and so forth because that's all they had, and that's what's happening. But for Trump to say that, I don't know if it's happening up here in Springfield. It's just up the way here from me, not too far. But we are getting immigrants here in this little old Zanesville, Ohio.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
our population now is at 90,000, and we've got immigrants that are across from a Burger King here off of State Route 6, and they're out in the mornings, looking for work or whatever. But it's a real problem. And
what kind of problems are you experiencing?
Well, it's just I don't know how to say this, Rich, without sounding
like a racist white man? How dare you?
Yeah, right. But I just want people to realize that these are people from third world countries, and Donald Trump has it exactly right. They're sending some of their worst people to us.
Yeah, well, I think, and just to clarify, I don't think if you've got people that are looking for work that they're the problem here, right? I think the real problem here is the people that are not looking for work, the people that are contributing to crime, the people like the people in Colorado, right? There's a real difference there. And I'm not saying that we should welcome everyone that wants to come, right? You have to have a limit somewhere and say, look, we need this many people to work. Okay, great, and shut the doors. But I do believe that there's a huge problem, like it's what you're talking about, and what Trump is talking about. When you have people that come from other places and they are undesirable in their own country, why on earth would we want them here? Now, if you're coming here to work hard and make a life for yourself and contribute to the country, different story to me. But by and large, I don't want your problems in my country. And I don't think we should have to deal with that. Do you?
Yeah, well, if you listen to the left-wing media, all they're saying, they're saying, oh, this has been debunked and so forth. Well, no, it hasn't been. And if you listen to shows like yours, I haven't been able to catch Newsmax because I've been real busy working. But, if you catch shows like yours at night like I have to, and you give out the facts, then people understand that these people are coming to our country. And Kamala Harris done nothing but gaslight the other night. Yeah. I was so mad when I called the producer. I couldn't even hardly talk.
Yeah, and you know what the big issue here for me, Paul, just to put a point on this, is immigration's a problem. It's an ongoing problem. It's going to be an ongoing problem. It's a tension that we have to manage, like Andy Stanley says. What really is bothering me here is how the media is seemingly trying to just discount and disqualify the statement that Trump made. And all of a sudden, everybody is an expert. Everybody's echoing the idea that, Scranton isn't Springfield and the woman's not a Haitian immigrant. So therefore, but the woman did eat a cat. And that is a problem. And that's what Trump was talking about, people eating pets. So if he's talking about people eating pets, and then he's talking about the geese that are being stolen, and he's talking about the people that were hurting the cats, a group of Haitian men in a van, I have no problem with him making a generalization about those things, because what does one know about geography? You're making a statement on an opinion. So anyway, Paul, thank you for your call. I got to pause right here. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Frank, Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Frank, go right ahead.
You're focusing on the arrangement of the deck chairs on the Titanic and ignoring the fact that we've hit an iceberg or it's sinking fast. All authorities in America, except Paul Krugman, maybe in the New York Times, agree that the greatest threat to our existence as a nation is our out-of-control national debt. Nevertheless, neither candidate for president at the recent debate, not David Muir, not Lindsey Davis, and no commentator in the media, including you, Mr. Rich Valdez, has ever mentioned or referred to our out-of-control national debt. Why not?
I'll tell you, it's a great point. And the reality is, it's kind of like saying, why don't I talk about curing cancer? I don't believe we can fix it. I don't. I think in theory, we can come up with things. I could say we need to cut spending, we need to do this, we need to do that. But ultimately, what ends up happening is I believe that there is a massive spending addiction, and this addiction is beyond cure. I think if a meteor, and God forbid, but I think if a meteor hit Washington, D.C., and there were no more politicians left, the new ones that they would go and start shooting up pork barrel spending right into their veins. It's the system that we have created, and it's the one that permeates. I don't know how to fix it, but for, I don't know, a lot of prayer, maybe talking about it a little bit more. I think we talk about national debt just about every time we have an economist on, because it always comes back to spending, and the spending goes to the debt. So I think that's part of it, but I don't see a cure for that in the short term. In the long term, I think ultimately you need really conservative politicians that will spend less and actually address it. And Trump is one of those. He's a spender, but he's one that likes to tackle big issues. And we'll see if pressed, if he comes up with a plan to deal with it. But it's one of those things. It's a house of cards. I agree with you. No argument there. Frank, thank you for your call. Let me see. With seconds to go, somebody's getting cut off. Let's go to... Well, how about this? Shout outs for everybody. John in Vero Beach, Florida, WTTB says, Kamala was tipped off to the debate questions. Seemed that way to me, but what do I know? Larry in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, WRNN says Trump should campaign more on pets because people love him. I think you're right. And I look at the memes all over social media. I think he's on it. Paul in Boise, KBFI says AI is dangerous and a great way to cheat. You're right. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez. Have a great weekend. God bless.